I hear.
Is that your dog?
Whoa.
Yeah, that's not. Ollie, stop.
Whoa.
No.
I hate actor podcasts. Oh,
I'm
so
sorry.
annoying.
It's like literally just his breathing. Okay, he's good. Okay, good. He's good.
Okay. Welcome back to another episode of Before the Break. This week we have a wonderful guest. She's appeared on such shows as That Damn Michael Che, Monsterland, and For the People. She was in the off-Broadway production of Emojiland and can currently be seen making her Broadway debut in the new musical and Juliet. Please welcome to the show, Megan Kane.
Hey.
Hello.
Hi.
I
Hi,
believe
Megan.
you are the first guest we have had who is the spouse of another guest that we've had.
I love that.
Isn't that nice?
It is nice. I know we were like just saying before we started recording that y'all are very familiar with this background because Ben has sat right here.
Yep. Just
Yes.
reuse it. Easy.
And he says hello and sends his love.
Oh, we love him.
Mm-hmm.
That was a
Yeah.
lovely episode. Yeah, this is great. We get to talk to a person who's part of a partnership, and in this business, you'll find that a lot. Well,
Mhm.
if any actor who's dating another actor, they met in a class or like on
Right.
set or like and
Right.
it's interesting because I assume that you dated before your before matching with your husband, but
Yes.
in those years trying to date people who, for me at least, it was dating an actor. Like the person I want to date was not an actor because I can't date another actor, but they weren't corporate because I can't date a corporate.
You can't
like
date a
robot.
corporate.
So how do I, my buddies, like towards the end of my dating life, they're like, maybe it's a director. So like in the creative, but like not an actor. I'm like, yeah, I can see that. But, and then of course I marry an actress because, when you find your person, it's like they're going to work for you.
Totally.
But it is interesting to have a partner who's in the business who kind of understands. I know Adam Patrick does the readings for your auditions and stuff.
Yep.
It's very hard sometimes to get
Yep.
like our roommates or significant others if they aren't. But I think it provides a wonderful life that you're seen and kind of understood, and the day-to-day BS that you're having to go through day in and day out. They're there with you and they understand the pressures and the lifestyle.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Ben and I have a unique situation because we started dating when we were 21 and we've been together 15 years at this point.
Wow.
Married 5, but together 15. And, we started dating back when we were both like the year between, like the summer between junior and senior year of college. And so we were both in BFA programs and both went back to school and did like long distance for a year. And right after I graduated college, I moved to the city like 5 days after I graduated, but he was already here because he went to school in the city.
Did you ever think you'd both be on Broadway at the same time, which is about to happen very, very, very shortly?
Never in a million years.
How cool is that?
Wonderful.
It's the wildest.
When does his show open? April?
Yes, April. I think they start previews the beginning of April.
It's right around the corner.
And our theaters are literally one street away from each other.
Great.
I'm on 43rd and he's going to be on 44th. It's so
great.
Fucking wild. It's wild.
Isn't that beautiful though?
It really
is. And I see actors who are like, they're a few years ahead of us, a couple of decades ahead, and they're married and they talk about their lives as new couples.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying in the first 10 years of their marriage, but being actors and what an adventure it was jumping from job to job, and sometimes you were on the same lot and sometimes you were on the same stage, and
yes.
It's just so interesting in such a small world too. But I think that it's super rare to be on a Broadway stage, and it's extra rare to have two people who are partners on the stage. I mean, it must speak to the talent of you too. I mean,
something. I don't know.
It's pretty cool.
We've only gotten to work together one time, and we did an episode of For the People together. We did a scene together, and I'll never forget when I got that audition. My agent sent it, and it came through. And Ben was in LA filming, and I was back in New York. I was kind of bouncing between LA and New York at that time because he was out there filming, and I wanted to be with him, but obviously auditioned for theater a lot, so I was here. And that audition came through and I was like, For the People. And I like look at the scene, I look at the sides, and it was with Seth Oliver. And I was like, Ben plays Seth Oliver. So I like call my agents immediately and I was like, this scene is with Ben. And they were like, well, we knew he was on the show, but we didn't realize the scene was with him. So I called Ben. I was like, guess who gets to be a reader for me for my audition with you?
Right.
Have the actual actor on your audition tape.
Exactly. So that's
casting's like, wait,
I know
who
that
is
voice.
that?
Yeah,
wait, what?
exactly.
How did she get his audio from the show? We haven't even recorded it yet.
So odd. Yeah. So that's the only time we've ever gotten to work together. And we've often said, like, if it was any like a play or something, we were always like, would it be good? Or like, meaning like, would it be good to work together, or would we just like go at it? I don't know.
I know. I mean, truly, like, that's a thing.
Because his process is very different than mine.
And it's sort of like that old adage, don't go into business with your family, like when you're on set and you're like, he doesn't know his fucking lines. Oh,
right. He doesn't know his lines. No.
And then you're just constantly apologizing for him.
Right, exactly. I'm so sorry.
He's had a long week, honestly, and the dog is like a big thing at home.
Dog. Also, yes, I should say to the listeners that if you hear like a snorting sound, it's my dog. He's a Frenchie and he snores a lot. So it's sitting next to me.
Sweet. Mine just got his little balls cut off yesterday.
No.
So he's in his crate right now, and I'm having to like just wait on him, and not having to. It's actually a pleasure. Yeah, but he's just really in a bad state right now.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm taking Ollie after this to go get his yearly shots. That's what he's got to go do.
All right. Well, maybe a pup cup after if he's good.
Maybe a pup cup.
Don't say it too loud, Megan.
I know. He's gonna be like, what?
I was
all right, Megan,
let's a pup cup after this appointment.
I always do. He always remembers. It's not like they're gonna forget. My God, you say pup cup.
Never.
Okay, Megan, let's talk about, this isn't a partner episode, by God. We're going to talk about acting.
Yeah, forget Ben. He's already had a whole hour.
You had a whole episode with him.
And he came into another one. We had an episode where somebody, he was the impetus of her, because it was so wild.
Yeah, becoming an actor. And I'm like, isn't that funny? What if it was Ben? She's like, it was.
No way.
You're kidding. She had seen him.
It got oddly specific, and we were both sort of thinking the same thing. And Tom goes, "I'm sorry to cut you off. You wouldn't happen to be talking about Ben Rappaport, would you?" And she was like,
and it was simply,
"Why do you know that?" Yes, it was Ben Rappaport. And we were like, "Oh my God!" It was so funny, so funny.
That
small world. Okay, so let's talk, Megan.
Let's talk.
Let's just start at the goddamn beginning, okay?
Okay.
Where did all the Adam has a lovely question he loves to pose. Where did the pain start?
Where did the pain start?
Or when, rather. So talk to us about your upbringing. I'd love to hear about, where you're from and the environment that hopefully kind of fostered this instinct to go into acting. You're from South Carolina, California, and Texas. So tell us
very good. Very good. So I was born in South Carolina, but like only lived there till I was 2. Mm-hmm. My dad was in the golf business at the time. And so
the golf business or the golf business? He could be an oil spill, or maybe he's taking care of the edges of our coastline. Okay, golf, got it.
Yes, golf. And so we moved to Southern California, and I was in 2nd grade, and an audition.
Whereabouts? I'm from Southern California.
Oh, was Mission Viejo.
Oh, I'm from Orange.
Oh my gosh, yes. So, I mean, I honestly don't remember it all that well, just because I only lived there till I was 8, and so I remember bits and pieces of it, but not that much. But an audition for my elementary school's production of Annie came across the desk, and I just said, "Mom, I want to audition for it." And she said, "Okay."
And your rep was like, "I think you have a really good chance. The other kids are
other kids are shit.
Don't have it.
You have this in the can."
So I auditioned, but I was only in 2nd grade. And my mom has the story about the woman that was directing this production, who is actually coming to see me on Broadway next week, which is really crazy.
Love that.
Called my mom and said, "I think that she is really special." And my mom was like, "Well, thanks. She's my kid. I think
she needs to be in a different class."
Special,
no, like legitimately,
like legitimately talented. I don't know. And my mom said, well, thanks. And she said, well, I want to give her the role of Annie, but she's so young. I don't think that she could do it. So I'm going to give her Molly. So I got Molly in my school's production. And I'm literally not kidding. It was from that moment on that I knew that I was going to be an actor for the rest of my life. And I begged my mom to get me an agent in LA. So she did.
You're in the second grade.
During the second grade. Yeah. I begged her to get me an agent. And I was like, I just want to be in the movies. I want to do something, you know? So I did. She took me down to LA. And this was back before there was like, ways. And I remember I had like a physical map in my hand. And as we were driving from Orange County, California to LA, and I was like trying to give my mom directions as like a second grade. I'm like, turn, I don't know, left on this street.
There's a crease here. I don't know. You're supposed to roll this, Mom. You're supposed to roll the map.
So I went down and I auditioned for this agent, and that agent was like the agent to the Olsen twins, and
God,
a pretty big like agent, and they started repping me, and I know it was crazy. And my very first audition with them was for Interview with a Vampire.
Holy shit!
That for the Kirsten Dunst role,
right?
And I remember. I just was
addicted.
I was addicted. Like I was addicted to this I don't know, feeling of like possibility, you know?
Right.
This hope, this idea that you could actually, you have this feeling in your head and it can actually be a thing.
Yeah. And so I auditioned here and there and did a few like commercials, as a kid, but really started to do like community theater. And finally somebody said, I think you should get her into voice lessons. So they did. And
were you singing as a kid? I mean, did you have that?
Yeah, like I think I always had like a natural sense of music and tone and pitch. But I got into voice lessons, and I started learning in about, I think, like third grade. It was when I was in voice lessons. And I
was just going to third grade in third grade.
I was singing in detention, so
she's fucking auditioning opposite Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise.
Right.
I mean, hardly. It was more just like me and the casting director, but like I was auditioning for that movie, I suppose. And then my parents, I told them they ruined my life because they were moving to Texas. My dad's job was taking them to Texas. I was like, you're ruining my life. And honestly, this golf.
I'll come visit when I can, but like,
right? Yeah, like I'm staying in LA.
Auditions are full-time job,
right? I often have that thought though, like, what if I did like stay? What was that place that all the like childhood actors like lived in LA? That like
Viper Room.
Not that
childhood actors.
Yeah, it was like it was like an apartment building. What is the name that I'm trying to think of? It's like all the kid actors lived there. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
So there was an actual like living quarters for the youngsters.
Yeah, like them and their like, parental unit would go.
Right.
And,
like if they didn't live in LA.
Yeah.
Was there a documentary about
Universal?
This?
It was on Universal.
It's called The Hollywood Effect or something.
Yes, there's a documentary about this.
It's so sad.
So
it's about child act. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and they would all go during pilot season. Anyways, I oftentimes thought like, what would have happened if I like would have become like one of those kids or whatever. But no, my parents were like, we're moving to Texas. Mm-hmm. There's theater in Texas. You're gonna be okay.
You'll keep your innocence a little bit longer, and you're gonna be all right. Yeah,
exactly.
But
you'd be dead right now, Megan. Seriously.
No, not
we would all. Oh, come on. Of course you would. Everyone. Yeah. I mean, it's a miracle if someone's well adjusted at 40 in their adulthood from being. I'm sorry, but it's a real thing. I think. I mean, it really is.
No, that shit is real. Seriously.
Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, who knows?
But also, you're right. At that age, when it's so shiny and new and I mean, having that stripped away from you must be
I was heartbroken.
Traumatic.
heartbroken. And like neither one of my brothers were interested in the arts or anything like that. But like I just had the most supportive family. Like they never ever questioned that this was what I wanted. And I'm very strong-willed, and I always just made it abundantly clear, and they always just fully supported my dreams.
I
And
mean, if they see a kid who's this serious
right.
about
Yeah.
something that's so difficult and so lifelong, I mean, you can't really deny it. You can't take it away from
No.
them. That
But
seed
I
is
also had
planted and it seems real.
no idea. You know what I mean? Like I had no
Yeah, but
idea.
22-year-olds don't either. You know,
Right?
none of us know, like
Right.
going in, our poor parents. It's going to take me, if my kid comes to me and says, I kind of want to be an actor, I'm going to be like, God
Mhm.
damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I
Yeah.
hope that doesn't work out and you get to go do something. No, I'm kidding, but
Or
kind of not. You know,
I
it's
hope
just like you don't
I hope you
trust
want it.
that they know everything to
Mhm.
that goes into this extremely volatile life, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you have to have an all or nothing mentality, and it's
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
easy
yeah.
for a
Mhm.
lot of people to, you know, get discouraged and be like, maybe I do something, you know, and then it's, you know, I
Yeah.
think people who last, it's a mentality of this is it.
The
I'm just waiting for
I'm
when
waiting
it
for my
finally happens.
turn. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
And
So how was
I
Texas? How long did you stay there then?
well, I was there from 4th grade through high school,
Gotcha.
and I found an amazing, wonderful voice teacher. And I started auditioning for like, community theaters and professional theaters downtown. They have the
Like in
alley.
8th grade, like just so you know, I
Smoking.
auditioned for Interview with the Vampires. So like,
Like,
This ain't my
you
first
like
rodeo. I might be in
this
Texas, but
she's like,
Oh my
you're
God.
9.
I know. They're like, get
Jesus.
out of here. You're in Texas. No, yeah. So I started auditioning for like the alley theater and stuff like that. And I started working down there, and my mom and dad, we had like a little carpool of kids that lived in the Woodlands, which is I'm like 45 minutes north of downtown. And they would pick us up every day after school, and we'd do a show at night, and we'd go home, do our homework, and do it all again the next day.
amazing.
And I was so lucky because my high school theater program at our public school in Texas was incredible, like truly
Nice.
incredible.
One of those, huh?
One
Yep.
of those, and I had,
Were you just like, you know, in Hollywood, how they do it, and they're like,
They have
hardly.
different
Again
bulbs
with
at the
Hollywood.
vanity. Yeah,
I
it's just
didn't
different
have
bulbs,
much
a little left,
success
right.
in Hollywood as a child, so I clearly had no leg to stand on.
It was
Oh, I
stripped
suppose
from
not.
me.
It was stripped. It was all taken away.
Best 8 months of my
Um,
goddamn life.
Right? Yeah. So my teacher, I still to this day like contribute a lot of like what I know to be true as an actor, what I learned from Mrs. Erlinson. I really do, like in high school.
Yep. Yeah.
And we, theater in high school in Texas is competitive. Did Ben talk about this when Ben was on?
I imagine it's almost like cheerleading.
It's
It's
like
that thing where
football.
like, yeah, it's like a big,
Is he from
very
Texas?
heavy
Yes, that's where we met. We met in high school. Yeah.
cheerleading.
No, but we're both cheerleaders in high school.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, so it's
Oh my
pretty
God.
like that
Yeah.
show choir. It's
Yes.
like a real thing,
You
right?
do one act plays and you compete with this one act play with a rule book that's like, the size of the Bible. It's so thick. And you compete against other schools.
And it
And
says there are no rules. Except
yeah,
it's
right.
a
That's
thick
all the
ass
book
fucking
says.
book
Yeah,
of like
exactly.
rules.
So we would go to like, there's like area and regionals and state and all these things. And that's how Ben and I met, is our schools would compete against each other.
Oh my God.
And
You were rivals.
we were rivals. We really were.
Like your mom
And
told you.
yeah. And so I did that, and it came time to to audition for schools, and I always just knew I wanted to go to a BFA musical theater program.
Huh.
And I ended up getting into Webster, and I went and visited, and I loved that the school was really heavy in acting, that it was really like an acting focused musical theater program.
Right.
Which
Awesome.
Uh-huh.
which is
Yeah.
what I really, really wanted and needed, quite frankly.
Yep.
So I went there, and honestly, one of the best decisions I've ever made. I still think about it. I'm like, what would have happened? Would my career taken off quicker if I would have went to like Carnegie or Juilliard or like Michigan or like one of those one of those big programs. But honestly, Webster was the best thing that happened to me. And I made my lifelong friends there. And 5 days after graduation, I moved to the city.
Nice. And did you I'm going to assume you did musical theater, so your end game was New York City.
Always. Yeah.
Yeah.
Always. There was no question in my mind that I wanted to live in New York. And I also knew that I didn't want to go to school in the city, to be honest.
Why?
I really wanted the training without the pressure of auditioning. Like I really
concurrently.
Right. And I feel like that's not necessarily true for everyone that goes to school in the city, obviously. But I knew that if I would have come here, that I would have felt this innate pressure to like audition at the same time as training.
Yeah.
And pressure from myself, clearly. That's that's it.
Right,
and
right,
yeah.
right.
And so I went to school in St. Louis and moved here, and I was lucky that I had my husband already lived here, so there was a lot of like showing me the ropes, like how do I take the subway? Yeah, where do I live? What's Ripley Greer? What's Pearl Studios? You know what I mean?
So
Like
many questions, right?
Right?
Like the first 5 months, and then like I'll never forget the first subway ride where I didn't use my phone. I was going someplace and I would just know how to get there, and it was just like,
did you feel like a star?
I feel like I felt like not totally out of place anymore. I felt like this place was a little
You just
familiar.
take the E to the L. Duh.
Yeah, you just take the one uptown. Okay.
Not that hard.
Not that hard. Yeah, no, I remember that too. And when I first moved here, I got an apartment in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. Do you know where that is?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All the way at the bottom. It's lovely. Lovely.
Oh, yeah.
But I just had no idea.
They have different air there, don't they?
They really do. It's closer to Europe, actually.
It is so fucking far.
When I hear Bay
like
Ridge or Red Hook, I'm like,
yeah. Oh, it's probably 90 minutes at least into the city on a decent day. Yeah.
But I didn't know better. So I just got an apartment down there, and I was like, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, it's by the water.
I can see the Statue of Liberty. They're like, you're too far. You're way too far.
Way too far. Way too far. So, but I didn't know better, and I got an apartment down there. I only lasted there for 3 months because I realized how just absolutely not good.
It's not convenient for when your life is probably going to be revolving around Midtown.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
So yeah, and then I moved to the city, and that's when all the real pain started.
She rips off a scab.
Yeah.
But man, isn't it so much better though? There were times where I was going back to Astoria at 2 a.m, and then I get home at 5:30 because the R was down or something, and it was just hell. And then I had my last 4 months in New York was essentially in Times Square. To get home in 12 minutes from like anywhere was the most incredible feeling.
Incredible thing ever. Totally.
We'd like get dinner, and he's like, "Oh my God, my apartment is 2 blocks that way."
Yeah, isn't that gorgeous? I know.
It's going to take me at least 5 minutes to get there. Jesus, Adam, so inconvenient. Okay, so as things started to like pick up in the city, first of all, let's talk about the traction and reps and stuff like that. What were your steps to getting that kind of a structure built?
So I started auditioning for anything that I felt like I was right for, not right for. Just
through where and how? How did you hear about them?
I think, I moved to the city with my EMC card. So, because I had in school,
that helps.
It really, really helped, specifically back then, back when, when in the Equity Building, when non-ec people had to sit on the benches outside, but you couldn't pee, you had to go to McDonald's downstairs to pee.
You had to bring your own cardboard, just like the rest of everybody on the street.
Right. And with your EMC card, you could go into the building and you could sit in there and get on the EMC list and things like that. So
like in Wayne's World when they have their backstage passes and like, excuse me.
Exactly. That's kind of what it felt like. And yeah, so I I started auditioning for anything that I was right, not right, anything. And through, I don't even know, maybe the Equity website or through, Playbill or
so many random
backstage.
Yeah. Magazine. It was still is it still like an actual newspaper magazine you can get?
I think so.
Like, because it would come out at the newsstands and you would go get it every week and you would circle which ones you wanted to go to.
Yeah,
I
go
know
to the
I sound like
payphone and call. Yeah, no, I know.
right now.
But it does make us sound like so old, but it's true. There was a precipice of change.
Yes.
Robin talks about going down to the it's escaping me now. What was it called? It's just a word. It was this the store that sold scripts and stuff like that. It was shut down
like drama
right before.
books.
Oh no.
But that's how he would get the agent booklets and like
and I would circle all of them and I would do blind.
Barnes and Noble had those. Like a really? Xerox thing that was stapled, and it had there was one for agents and managers and casting directors, what was currently filming, and they were like somebody made it in the fucking rec room,
right?
It was just so no frills stapled together.
Totally. Yep.
And they were way expensive.
Yeah, they were really expensive. I remember this.
Funny.
And so I did all that. I did blind mailings. I went to any audition I could. And one of the first things I booked was a TheaterWorks tour of Junie B. Jones.
TheaterWorks. If you haven't seen capital T, TheaterWorks, capital W, in the breakdown of Actors Access or whatever, they're usually saying, if I'm wrong, tell me, but it's usually like, hey, we've got weekly performances at these local schools, and you're getting about $25 per performance or whatever.
But it was a gigantic way to get your card. Like it was like it was the way to get your equity card back.
God, I haven't heard that. TheaterWorks is so long.
Yeah. And I remember it was to do Junie B, and I really liked Marcy and Zena, who wrote the music. I remember I listened to their music when I was in college, and I thought, if I'm gonna go do a TheaterWorks tour, I'd like it to be Junie B. Jones, because it's a good musical. It's really friggin' cute. But I knew I didn't want to do it very long, because it's a lot of cafetoriums and you drive the bus yourself, and you set up the set, and somebody does the props, and somebody does the costume.
God.
So you're getting paid as an ASM/actor.
Adam, it sounds like the bottom barrel indie film worlds where I'm
it reminds me
articles of wardrobe.
Do you remember I never submitted for one, but I used to see them all the time. The Discovery ID shows.
Yeah. I did one
That's
called
what this
Mobsters.
That's what this reminds me of.
Yes.
It really is.
It was not my favorite thing I've ever done. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was not my favorite. I remember we were sitting in that van, and we would be driving from, across multiple states, and somebody was driving the van, and how exhausted and tired we are. And then we would go and we would stay at a Motel 6 or
I love this. I gotta tell you, Megan, I love this, because it's kind of like you're on.
Did you get compensated well at all?
No, I think it was $325 a week. Yeah.
But to drive yourself.
Yeah, and set up the set and costumes and props and then perform the show. And then I remember if there was a Panera in the town we were in, it was luxury.
Party town.
There's a Panera, and we would
go and Tuscan chicken.
Yeah, exactly, like a Fuji apple
bread
salad.
bowl.
Yep, a bread
Chips,
bowl.
Please. Yep.
Broccoli cheddar and
oh my God.
As much as I can, you're illustrating this very and I say this word as not a label to the person, but the experience, the cowboy-esque on the road. You're you're with these people, you're exhausted, you're doing everything. It seems like you're checking the boxes off these rite of passage experiences that in the moment, it sucked, but looking back, it was you and your group of actors on the road. You got a couple of bones. It was so exhausting, but what a cool introduction, and also a way to introduce you to the business while building a little bit of humility, you're coiling the cables kind of. And it's then in 10 years, you're on this cushy acting job, and you're like, man, I really did do everything I could and held
I
every
really,
job.
I really did. Yeah, I
Yeah,
really did.
yeah. And
And
you get that satisfaction. That's awesome.
I do, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of
Yeah,
it. And
good for you.
and yeah, so I did that, and I came home. It was only 3 months. They do I think still 6-month tours and 3-month tours.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And
There
I
were
did
so
this.
many deaths. Like there were so many people just taking themselves out. So they had to take it down to 3.
Yes. So I came back to the city, and then I had my card, and so I auditioned for summer stocks, and I remember there was, and I don't know if these still exist. Maybe they do. It was called the AAA audition, Agent Actor Access audition, or something like that. And I didn't have rep, and so I went in, and I got seen. I had to get there at like I think 5 a.m. to get. They only took like 25 people to like be
Oh
on
my
the list.
God.
Yeah. So yeah, like it was something really nuts like that.
Mm.
And I got on the list, and I went in, and I think I sang, I don't know what the hell I sang. Probably was Gimme Gimme. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay.
From Millie. And they were interested. So they called me. It was like 3 agents in the room, and one of them was interested. And they called me to like a more formal audition for that agency. And they liked me, and I met with them, and they signed me. So that's how I got my first agent, was through
And
the
now how long
long?
into New
Yeah.
York City are we?
We're probably 2 years into the city.
And
Okay.
in those 2 years, how many, I know you can't give me an exact number, but I know
Yeah.
those first 2 years, how often I was auditioning for literally
Auditioning
like anything and
hundreds.
everything.
Yeah.
Hundreds, right? Okay, so
Hundreds.
what I just had we had a student meetup, and one student asked about how to find your type, and I
Mhm.
gave a nice answer about how to really do it, but truly, I think that it's in those first 300 or 400 auditions where
Mhm.
a specific type of character, you're
Yeah.
walking out of that audition in this extremely familiar and strong and comfortable place, and
Mhm.
oh, that's one of my types that I
Yeah.
can play very well. And then 100 auditions later, you're going to find this other kind of type that you have in your back pocket. So those 3 or
Mhm.
400 auditions were like just bats swinging
Yeah.
away, getting the feel, and then
Figuring it
finally
out.
you get that key, which is the agent opportunity, and you're
Yeah.
ready because you've swung so many damn times.
Totally. Totally. And so much of like finding your type too. I think, I can think I'm one type, and then I go into a room, and they think I'm a completely different type. Does that make sense? Like so much of
Of
type, I feel
course.
like is how
Or
someone
you're a type, and then once you figure your type out, you're already aged out of
is
that, and you're entering
changing.
this new.
Exactly. Exactly. So type, I'm always like, does it even matter anymore? Because it's like,
On camera is weird too because you're gonna
right.
get auditions for everything.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
with TV and film, you aren't really in charge of what you get called in for, right? Your agent
Yeah.
is manager is gonna,
Filter those in. Yeah.
submit you for like everything
Right. Right.
because, you know, so it's like, there's days that I'm auditioning for a villain on Blacklist, but
Mhm.
then I'm auditioning for something on Maisel that's like with an accent and really, really funny and over the top, and they couldn't be more different,
Opposite.
but it's like, well,
But
that's your
both can
job
be
as an actor is to
right.
like do it. Like I'm
Both
not gonna
can
go,
exist at the same
sorry,
time. Yeah.
Succession isn't really my type. I'm
Right.
gonna fucking audition for Succession.
100 times you're gonna audition for it.
You know
Every
what I
single
mean?
time.
So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, theater's maybe a little different because at a certain point, you are the one who's like, these are the auditions I want to go to this week. Like, I'm
Absolutely.
going to show up for that. Whereas TV and film, it's a bit different. It's like, you just do what you do. Obviously, there's going to be auditions that play to your strengths.
Mhm.
Right.
And you'll be
Oh,
like,
yeah.
this has me written all
All over it.
it.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
other ones, you're like,
So
but I
maybe
want to
it's
be on
not
the
even
show.
it's not a type audition, it's a strength audition. So it's like, oh, I can play 100 of these. These are all me. I could easily book this. But this
Right.
one is the warm, friendly, approachable dad. That's my thing,
Yeah.
obviously.
It's
So
like
that's the strength.
totally. And so much,
Cool. Yeah.
can exist. We're so complicated as humans, right? Like there is a side of me that's both sides of the spectrum. They all exist in me. So
Totally.
it's just about finding how they're authentic and truthful for you in that moment, in that day, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
I think it's that finding the type isn't about the finding of the audition. It's the type that you feel comfortable playing that you can raise, apply to the next audition, and feel some
totally.
sort of familiar room. So the
Mhm,
warm, approachable guy, that could be the dad, but it can also be that best friend, as long as I
mhm.
have that feeling of that character, because you only have 3 days. You don't have 3 months
Right,
to like
right,
get into this thing, you
right,
know?
right.
So
And I think type also, finding your type is about how to market yourself, right? It's the
yeah.
headshot. It's the website. It's those
Mhm.
those things. And I know we haven't gotten there yet in my story, but I work not currently because I'm busy, but when I'm not busy, I work for a headshot photographer and I do hair and makeup for
Really?
them.
This is
Yeah.
great.
Oh,
This
cool.
is
One of my
great.
best friends, and he's so talented, and I have learned so much sitting in that hair and makeup chair and watching actors, talk to the photographer about what they're going in for, or have a lack of awareness of what they need. And it's so interesting
Mm.
to not be on the other side of the table, but be other side of the makeup
Yeah.
brush for those conversations.
Yep.
We were
Yeah,
just
there
having
yeah.
this conversation with a guest in the last few weeks about like being really specific with a photographer and
Mhm.
being like, this is what I'm going in for. This is what
Totally.
I want to go in
Exactly.
for. Here are
Exactly.
reference photos. This is the kind of look for the shots that I'm going
Mhm.
for. And
I
they
love
go,
this lighting. This lighting speaks this shot that's on your Instagram. I loved
yep,
that shot of that person or
yep,
whatever.
Mm.
Little clues for the photographer to be able to be like, okay, I see you. I know. Okay, what are you getting at? And I always love it when they show their past headshot and say, this worked for me for this, and
hmm.
or this is my last shot, and it really wasn't.
And I haven't gone out in 2 years. Why don't we
Totally,
fix that?
totally.
Wow, you're
Yeah.
crying a lot, huh? Yeah. Megan, you bring up something so important. I'm so glad that you have this like other side,
Mhm,
because I say this to my students all the time. You got to do something that
mhm,
puts yourself on the other side, whether that's you're a reader or you're a
mhm,
location or casting assistant or you're doing
mhm.
something else. Because what's happening, Megan, is you're not taking your headshots. So you're not the actor in the
Yeah.
headshot mode where you're thinking about, am I doing this right? I want to do. You're seeing it from a quiet corner on the
Yes.
side.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing why my reel changed when I was in a meeting with my manager, just he and I, and he was going over my reel, and it was 2.5 or 3.5 minutes long. And I was like, oh my God, this is taking forever to get him
Yeah.
to the gold. I've got to take this down by
I've gotta
half.
keep this down.
The
Yeah.
only reason I realized that was because I wasn't an actor looking at my reel. I was a person watching an agent or a rep watch my reel.
Watch
And
your
so
reel.
I was lifted out of the actor's self and
Mhm,
watching it from the side, and
mhm,
everything changed. So what Megan's really saying is like you've taken now the stress of the focus on you, and you're able
mhm.
to see the situation with completely different lenses.
Yeah.
And when you see 100 headshots, you're realizing what works, what doesn't. Why are they? Why when that came, the person came in and kind of ruined their own experience and how they shot
Mhm.
themselves in the foot doing this or that.
Right.
That's how you really see. So whether it's headshots or being a reader, you're really getting a magnification on that place as in just a different way.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I love it. I waited tables for 10 years in the city and I was miserable.
Mm.
Um, and it wasn't until I started doing makeup for this headshot photographer that I loved my side hustle. I loved going to work because it was creative and it was still in the world of what I want to
Yep.
do, right?
Yet
Um,
still gave you a break from specifically acting,
yeah, yeah, and I
right?
was good at it. You know what I mean? Like I'm good at it. So it felt good to do something. I mean, I was a good waiter too, but it wasn't fulfilling. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
That's odd.
It was like, yeah, isn't that odd? Weird.
You don't like having lower back issues?
No,
Come on.
bottomless brunch in the West Village, so
Oh,
fun.
heavens, stop it.
Yeah,
I'm starting
I
to
yeah.
sweat.
apologize for my people.
Yeah.
It was we had good times. We had good
Oh my
times, but it was a
God.
lot. Yeah, it was a
Megan,
lot.
what were the things as things are picking up? So you get repped, and I assume you're going to be thrown into a couple of these rooms. How did the first
Mhm.
year or two go? Sometimes you get that big hit, and then the year and a half drought. Sometimes you get 2 years of nothing. I know with Ben, we had talked, and he had 2 years, I believe, right, Adam?
Yeah.
2 years of kind of radio silence.
Yeah.
And I believe this
After
was the
being the
catalyst for
golden child of
Right.
Juilliard.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was
And
the
then
protest
reality
there?
slapped him in the face.
Right.
Right
Yeah.
in the fucking cheek.
I'm really trying to think back to those first couple of years with my agent. You know, I think my story is I didn't get in the room a lot, to be honest. I felt like when I did get in the room, I was getting far. I was getting callbacks. I was getting
Yeah.
traction.
You were
But I,
taking advantage of the opportunity. You were just not getting those like
right.
opportunities.
I just wasn't getting a lot of them.
And it's
Mhm.
so
So
discouraging, isn't it? Especially
it really
starting out.
is.
You're like, what the hell? I have all this stuff to give and I'm not.
Right. But I'm not getting in there, you know? And so I would
Yeah.
do that thing where I'd be like, can you send me my submission report? What, you know, what am I, who's not wanting to see me, whatever. So I would see those casting directors that were casting the things that I wanted to be in for, that I wasn't getting in the room for. And I would go and I would take a class with them.
Right.
Specifically, I would
Okay,
want.
I was hoping you weren't going to say like looked up their address on
Oh
Google.
God, can you imagine just
Maps
being a
and be like,
total creeper?
hi.
Box of cookies.
You don't know me, but you should.
You will.
No, so I would try to be strategic about how to get in those rooms that I wasn't getting into. And so
Right.
to be honest,
Proactive.
yeah, being proactive.
This is
And
what you call like the hustle of doing this shit. It's
yeah,
finding something that's not happening or working and then problem solving and being like, how do I strategically, like you just said,
yeah,
get what it is that I want that I
yeah,
feel like I'm not getting.
and I'm not getting. And I would still go to I would still go to open calls or things like that. And the first job I got, I think this is true. The first job I got was Hairspray at the Arvada Center. And it was the first time that I was like, oh, I think that I can do this. You know, like I think that it's gonna be a long road, but I'm never gonna give up on this. I'm gonna be on Broadway. Like it was that little piece of the cookie that was enough to keep me going, you know?
Oh, and aren't those so special? Because
They
what
are.
they do is they really do keep you going. It's not the
Mhm.
paycheck, certainly, because it's
No.
never some big thing. It's simply
Right.
a whisper of
Mhm.
validation to
Mhm.
last you another year or two and give
Right.
you a reason to just stick around and see what
Right.
happens.
And I'm gonna be honest with you. That was kind of my journey for the last 15 years. It was like
Just little
one
by little.
gig a year. Usually. I've had some that were more plentiful than that, but it was like a gig or a workshop or a
Mhm.
nymph show or something that was enough to build a community, number 1, connections, number 2, and hope, number 3,
Hmm.
that kept me going. And I have had so many close calls, so many. I mean, even recently, like even in the last 6 months, they were so close. They were
And
so
you're like, if
close.
I see Kirsten Dunst, I'm
Yeah.
gonna punch her in the fucking face.
No. You know, I did I did a solo show at 54 Below, and one of my big medleys I did was what if I had booked that job? Like, what if I was Kirsten Dunst? And I did a
Love.
whole medley of like all the movies that she's ever done. I like took songs from them and like put my face, I like superimposed my face on her body, and I was like, it could have been me. It could have been me.
Love that.
I love that.
Yeah. It was fun. So yeah, I've had a lot of close calls. I've
And,
had
you
some
know, Megan, there are people, let's call them civilians out there who, you know, they see their friends or family who are actors. If someone has booked a group of credits,
Mhm.
theater, film, whatever, those are simply bookings. And the fact is, we go out, every one thing we book is, I don't know, about 100 things, like
Yeah,
maybe. And
maybe, yeah.
I'm reflecting. My experience is reflective of yours. I have lost
Mhm,
millions of dollars. I
mhm.
had a commercial at the Grammys last night. Guess who got cut out?
Damn.
You know, like you could have 6 figures or you could
Yeah,
not. You know, you could have this role in this Tom Hanks movie, or it's going to go to that guy, and that's it. And then tomorrow you're going to get up and you're going to go for another time, another swing. That we lose so much. We're close by this much. With routinely every 6 months there's something that could be life-changing, but it goes to the other person, and we do that for about 20 years, and hopefully you have one of those things that is kind of life-changing. But losing huge things, the carrot out of the mouth, and that visualization is like essentially the first 10 years, which is why people quit, because it's like, what the hell am I doing? It's literally just doing this over and over. But the fact is, just like yours, it's not a break. Before the break, there's no break. There's simple cracks along the sides, and then for 20 years there's this final kind of push, sort of like Jennifer Coolidge on a grander scale. It's like all these cool, great roles, but not the household name yet. Boom. Now everybody knows her, and
I think a lot of people don't want to hear that you're not doing anything wrong.
Right.
All that, there's nothing wrong that you're doing. It's things that are out of your control. You are doing the right thing. You keep showing up.
Exactly.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
It's so admirable to someone. It's such a hard thing to ask.
It is. It really is. And I have to be honest. Something changed in the last maybe year and a half, where I was getting close a lot, and I had two really wonderful, fulfilling jobs, and I started saying to myself, why not me? I kept going into these rooms and say, like, why not me? Because oftentimes I would go in, I'd be like, well, they're never going to choose me. I don't have a Broadway credit. And no one knows who I am. You know what I mean? Why not me? I started saying to myself, and I got to be honest, it changed everything for me. I started walking into that room, even though I'm outgoing, I'm confident, I hold my head up high, I'm usually pretty self-assured. I wasn't fooling anybody. It wasn't until I actually believed it that things really started picking up for me.
That's when everyone says this is my problem in the room, the answer to that is you just don't believe that you should have it. When I dated someone who was a big booker, where she would lose something and she'd be like on the phone with her rep saying, why though? Like, they went with who? Like, she was almost like, well, not an ego thing, but more just like, well, that's odd.
Yeah.
Sort of like, I should have gotten that. That's odd. Okay, well, on to the next one. But that's weird.
I was like, was surprised they were seeing other people.
I just thought
truly, it was more.
I thought I heard it was written for me, so it's a little odd that she got it.
It was really coming from, I could easily do this. There's no reason why I shouldn't be able to play it. And it was almost like ritualistic, where the person's like, well, that's fucking weird. Why didn't they? Okay, that's their choice, I guess. And then you're on to the next one with that confidence, knowing that, okay, well, if it's not that one, then it's going to be, some strong choice, or at least the last few choices or something. But that sort of surprise of like, yeah, but I can do this. Then you trick your mind to thinking that you should get any job that you go out for, because the first 3 years are like, I'm probably not going to get it. Like, and then you're so surprised when you do, but really you should be surprised that you don't, and then move on.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting take. And it did change everything for me, by the way.
Really?
Just watching it. Oh yeah. Just watching and saying, you have the audacity to think that you could beat 1,500 people. And then you start to beat 2,000 people and you're like, I guess I can do that. Now I believe it.
Yeah. And I never, I knew I was never going to quit until I made Broadway happen for myself. I knew it. And now that I have made that happen, I'm still not quitting. Now it's over.
She's done.
No, obviously not. But I just knew I was never going to stop until I got there. But when this, chemical shift started happening in my brain that really, really started saying, why not me? Like, I can do it. Why not me? Is when really things started rolling along for me.
Wow. It's amazing if we just believed in ourselves, what could happen.
Damn. Yeah.
So let's talk about Broadway and Juliet. Congratulations.
Oh,
when did you
Look at her face brighten up. She's so, like, congrats.
Glowing.
Amazing.
Makes me so happy.
When
Amazing.
did talk us through the audition process and when that was? And
okay, so funny story. I did not get seen originally for this. They wouldn't see me for it. And
was this show cooking, by the way,
yeah, so it was on the
pandemic?
West. Been on the West End, still running on the West End, for a while. And there was this, chatter that they were going to bring it to Broadway. And so I was away doing a production of Escape to Margaritaville when the breakdowns I originally knew had went out. And I emailed my agent for them, and I sent, and I still have this email. And I remember I said, I think I'm right for this role, this role, this role, this role. One of those roles being the role that I am currently playing on Broadway, which is crazy. And I really want to be seen. And they sent me back an email saying, like, we're pushing you, and they're being really specific about who they're seeing, but we're pushing you. I said, okay. And I ultimately didn't get an audition. I remember so many of my friends going in for this, and I was like, damn. Actually, one friend came over, and me and Ben helped coach them and tape their audition. And I remember being like, dang, why won't they see me?
You're like waving away, like, I could totally.
Hello. Yeah. And they cast the show, and they did their out of town in Toronto this past summer, and it was a major success. And I just kind of forgot about it and started to move on. And
you were like, I fucking hate that show, so it's fine. I don't want to be a part of it anyway.
I know. Can you imagine? So yeah, they did it, and then there was this chatter about how the girl that was playing the role that I had booked another job, had booked a principal on Broadway. And I caught wind of it because I have mutual friends. And so I emailed my agents immediately.
Did some of your friends do the out of town?
No, I knew no one. I knew no one in the show. I knew people. I knew, people through people, but I didn't have a close connection to anybody. And I emailed my agents and I said, I heard this person is leaving the company, and I have to be seen for this. I have to be seen for this. And they said, absolutely, we're pushing you. And when that happened again, I was like, well, they pushed me last time and I didn't get seen. But an hour after they sent that email, I got the appointment.
Whoa.
And yeah, like very quickly. And
do you see how being connected and tuned in to what's happening can inspire the destiny of your opportunities,
and being specific about the things you really, really want, and taking action. I really, really knew that I was right for this. I really did. And so, and it's a specific track because it's an ensemble track, but it covers two principals. And so, and I kind of live in this really interesting space between the two. And so I just really knew that I was right for this. And so I got the appointment, and I remember holding these sides, and I thought, this is mine to lose. This is mine to lose. So I did the tape, and I felt really good about it. And I sent it in, and I didn't hear anything for like a week. And I got a call back, and it was in person to dance. It was the original sides, because it was to cover. So it was all the the principal sides that I had to do. And I had to come and dance. And I'm a dancer. I dance, but I would never lead with being a dancer. I would never like a dance call or anything like that.
Of my triple threatness, it's
right.
Gonna be number
it's
3.
The lowest on the totem pole. And I went, and there was about no, I'm lying to you. There was another singing inside audition before this, and I went and I sang and I read and I felt good about it. And then after that, there was a dance call. And I was so nervous. There was about 13 girls there, and we learned the hardest number in the show, Problem, and I was losing my shit. I was so nervous, and I remember being like, stand in the front and show them that you can do the moves. You just can't remember the moves. Does that make sense? Like I wanted
what
to
a
show
great
them,
instinct.
like stylistically, I understood what they should look like. I just couldn't always remember in what sequence they came in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because there's somebody who can regurgitate easily, but can they do the
Exactly.
thing perfect? Like, it's about an actor.
Stylistically.
It's like an actor singing an actor in an audition, and they don't know all the lines, but are they on as far as the story, the character, the
Right.
moments, those little? He'll rehearse.
Right.
She'll have 3 months.
Give
Like,
them
come
give
on.
them a second. Yeah.
Right.
So
And you're smart to think about what they're going to be thinking about.
Right. Not about what
Like
you're
how
feeling, about what
they
they're
how
yeah.
they
Right.
on the other side of the table are going to perceive this of like, oh,
she can
there's
do
a
it.
rehearsal process.
Yeah.
She'll get it.
Right.
It ain't
Which
live. Yeah.
I'll get to the rehearsal process soon because that's also cuckoo bananas. But so I did it, and they cut us from 13 to 6, and they kept me, and I kept being like, okay, and they were like, we're just gonna keep reviewing it, and there was something in me that just knew they were championing me. Like I knew, and then they cut us from 6 down to 2, but they kept saying like, if we're letting you go, it's not that like you're out of the mix. It's
She's
just
like, the other 5 are my backup dancers.
no, hardly. They were all better dancers than me. And they propped 2 of us back in the room, and they said, we see that you can do this. We just want to get a really good take for the choreographer. I like kept fucking up the takes when they put us in 2s to like tape it for the choreographer. It was the associate in the room. I just kept fucking it up, and they're like, we just want to get a good tape of you. And I was like, okay. So I did it again. I did fine. And I immediately left the room, and I called my agent, and I said, I screwed the pooch. That wasn't the best I could have done. I know that I can do better. I was hot. It was a 3-hour dance callback. I was hot. My brain was fried.
You musical theater actress.
I know.
This shit is
what
crazy.
you have to do.
Nuts. I know. It's nuts. I said, I can do better. I can do better. I know I can do better. I can do better right now. I can go home and re-record it right now. And he said, let me call them. Let me call them and let me see what they said. And so I said, okay. I went home and I immediately taped myself doing it with my cell phone because I wanted to remember it in case they did want me to tape it again.
Mm-hmm. Again, everyone proactive.
I knew that I could do this. And my agent called me back and they said they felt like they got a good tape of you at the end. No worries. And I said, okay. So I had one.
That could mean what that means, or it could mean she's screwed the
done.
Pooch, pal.
Yeah. And I said, well,
that could mean we'll call you.
We'll call you. Don't
and
call
you're
me.
Like,
yeah. So I drowned my sorrows in some Chardonnay that night, I'm sure, something like that. And and the next day I got a final callback. And they added.
She's hungover. She's like, it's a surprise.
Oh God, I wasn't expecting this, and now the room is spinning.
Yeah. So they added some more material for one of the other principals I was going to cover, and I had that final callback, and I left the room, and I thought I did everything I could. I felt really, really good about it, and I thought that this was.
They gave you more sides for the next day.
Of course they did. Of course.
Yeah. And
want to see how she performs under some
pressure. Yeah. Yeah. And I left the room and I thought that was it. And it was over. And the next day my agent called me and they said, hey, they want to do a work session with you.
Oh my
God. And the choreographer.
She's even more hungover.
Every time I leave these guys, I think it's over. And I go to.
That's really what I thought it was. I was like, okay, I thought this was over. And it wasn't. And
Ben's like, hon, why don't we chill it out tonight? Because maybe you have tomorrow. No,
it's over.
No, they're not calling me back.
How many cigarettes did I smoke in Chelsea walking out of a cat just like, fuck this shit? And then they call, you got it. It's like, I knew it. I knew I was all right.
Chelsea. Yeah. You're like, I knew it the whole time. That's so funny. So then I had a work session with me and one other actor, working through the choreography with the choreographer herself. And then she taught us another combo that day. And I left and I thought, you know what? I don't know. I don't pick up choreography remarkably fast, but I did well. And I knew that they were going to have us do that first dance again, the one I taped.
Right.
So I just obsessively, Ben can vouch for this, for 2 days. I had a weekend. I found out on a Friday. My work session was on a Monday.
Okay,
I just did that dance over and over and over and over again. I literally have me taped on my phone 100 times doing it. and I did it, and then the next day I got the phone call, and I got, oh no, that's not true. That's a lie.
They gave me more shit. They gave me more.
Then I had a Zoom call with the director, because he's in the UK. And
he's gotta know.
And I
she
thought
might be good, but she might be crazy. She might be,
right?
You gotta know.
And I really thought that he was going to offer it to me on the Zoom call.
Oh,
so I had Ben tape the whole thing, just in case.
Yeah. I would do the same thing if Tosh was. I would do the same.
Okay, so before I hang up,
anything else?
Right, and I literally kept being like, and he finally said at the end, before we can make an official approach, there's one more thing we have to go through. And I'm assuming somebody else had to watch my tape. And then the next day I got the call saying that I had got it, and I was an absolute puddle of joy. Just the best. I could cry thinking about it. It was the best phone call of my life.
Because it's not just that phone call about the production and a job. It's
years.
A cumulative experience of purchasing lottery tickets every day, and then one of them actually, that sort of validation, payback, it all comes flowing in in that moment, because it's not just about the job, it's about the journey toward it.
Yeah, it was 15 years of no's. It was 15 years of no's for that one yes. And I'm telling you, I'm tearing up thinking about it, because it was a moment I will never forget. I will never forget that one yes. It made all of the heartache worth it. Really did.
And I think of maybe the drought before. What if you called it in and just said, it's time that I embrace something else, something life-giving for once. But really, I always think of the guy who's trying to get the diamond in the soil, and there's two guys, and one just gives up, and the other one is just, it's right there. It's on the other side, but you gave up. I could never give up, because I would be obsessed about the following Monday, what that would have brought.
Yeah, it was never an option. It wasn't an option for me.
And it's always crazy every time you get those calls and your rep is like, so they want to give you an offer, and this is when your shoot date is, and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, right, I moved here to do something. And in a week or two or whenever, I get to be a fucking professional actor on a set and get a paycheck, and I'm going to be on TV. And it's like, I like you were saying, it's cumulative of all the stuff that you've done.
Second grade.
It's so crazy that call never gets old.
No.
And I hope I experience it again in my life. But if I don't, it was all worth it for that one. And I'm lucky, because I've had the same rep for 13 years. So he really has seen all the close calls and knows with me. So to be able to make that call to me is really special. And when as soon as my phone rang, Ben knew and did pick up the camera and started recording, and I have that on tape. And it is.
You can record now. Just keep that going.
Another.
I know you imagine. Call back.
Megan, we want to see you one more time.
Just one
Here's
more.
A few more lines, to make sure.
Just need to see your shoulders. That's all. That's all. Just a bit of the shoulders.
But now, Megan, the thing is, you have that credit, and I would say in your line of work of that kind of theater, you're on the board now. You know what I mean? Like you have that. And I think it's only going to perpetuate after this show.
I certainly hope so. I'm having the time of my life. I mean, this show is such a joy to do. I'm so lucky that this is what I'm making my debut in, because it is so much fucking fun. People are having a blast at the theater. not to say that if it was some dramatic, you know, show that I was like pouring, you know, crying every night doing, wouldn't have been equally as fun. But there is something about just the inherent joy that this show has that makes it really, really easy to go to work every day, because it's just a blast. It's just a
Yeah,
blast.
we're in the people pleasing business.
Yeah.
Especially live entertainment, obviously.
Mm-hmm. And there's 15 people making our Broadway debuts in this show.
Whoa.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
the joy
That's
of that
awesome.
stage.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And it's so much fun. It really is.
You know what I'd like to see? A show behind the show of 15 newbies and one veteran, cynical fucking like
15
seen it
people
all.
who don't know what to do.
I'm dead. Yeah, no, that backstage is really like the reality show that somebody needs to produce of something, you know.
I'm sure.
Seriously, how funny would that be?
So good.
Oh
so
my
good.
gosh. Now there are a lot of students who are listening who maybe have questions about getting into the business and how to succeed. We've talked about everything, and it's hard to like pinpoint the one thing that you would say to an actor, but seeing your line of progress, the difficulties that you've surmounted, all the traps that you can get into, and the fact that you have been a success, what would you say to some of these newbies who just are a bright white canvas?
Yeah. I would say be proactive. Seek the things that are that speak to you and excite you, and be kind to everyone. Everyone. Everyone will circle back to you. It all comes back. So be kind in the process. And if you really want it, if you really, really want it, stick with it. I think those are the three things that I if I had to go back and tell younger Megan, I mean, they sound cliche, but they're really true. And foster a community, and if you want it, what is meant for you will not pass you by. It won't. Yeah.
I totally agree. And there's a reason why that whisper came to you at such a young age, and you stuck through it through all those years. And now where we are entering what apparently is called middle age, which I don't believe.
Ew.
I know. I'm sorry to say it, but you know,
I'm in my
apparently
30s. Wait,
I
30s
know.
or middle age? Damn.
Yes. We're entering though. I'm saying entering because it's like
Okay,
40, like you're
entering.
entering toward that. But that's the age that we see the snowball start to go over the top and gain that larger circumference as it rolls, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it's been such a long road, and it never, ever, ever loses its power when we hear a story, because we actually throw like a face to the experience and get to hear it firsthand. So Megan, thank you for sharing it. I hope you come
my
back.
pleasure.
This is not
I would
your
love it.
there are so many shows ahead of you, so much to do, you know.
Thank
and
you.
yeah,
Thank
thanks
you.
for swinging by, really.
It was such a pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Megan, where can people find you online?
It's Megan Kane on Instagram and Twitter. Although I don't post on Twitter very often, but I will repost something. But that's where I am. On Instagram, it's Megan Kane.
With a
And
K.
outside of this show, do you have anything in the pipeline coming up, or you're just on the I'm Juliet train for the foreseeable future?
Foreseeable future. I will be at the Stephen Sondheim Theater 8 times a week. So that's where
Nice.
you can find me. Yeah.
Well, congratulations, Megan. Turning fantasy to reality and taking fucking names.
In a few months, I'm going to have to come meet you and Ben after your guys' shows, and we'll have a drink.
It would be so much fun. It would be our pleasure. We would love that.
Megan Kane, thank you so much for hanging out with us. This was such a wonderful chat.
Thanks, guys. So nice to meet you. Have a
good one.
Bye.
Bye.
She is such
never
a joy.
loses its luster. I'll tell you what, Adam. I mean, I love hearing stories like that. I love it. I love it because there was nothing before. There was only what she called hope. You know, there was nothing, no promises, no this will happen. It was all just like, it's in your head and you like this idea and you have to do everything in your power to make it happen. And, you know, taking action, I think that's the theme, because really, like, taking action was the the spark. I mean, the reason why she's there 8 days a week now, 8 times a week is because she decided to put her ear to the ground, take action, to email, to follow up, to spend some time, to go home and record that thing 100 times so you know it inside and out when they meet you again. And
it's
again,
easy to know somebody's, leaving the show and just be like, oh, I hope I get a call, and being like, hey, I have to be seen for this. I heard this. Let's do something about it.
Yeah. It's all in your power. It's not about the rep. The rep's not, they're just going to push you into a room. It's your job to know the room, know who's in the room, and know who's coming out of the room, who's retiring from the room. Like, it's up to us. There's no, we have to be our own manager in some ways.
Yeah. Oh, she's so lovely.
That she is. Well, everybody, that's another episode. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. You can find out more about Before the Break and how to become a working actor at workingactorpro.com. Follow us on Instagram at Before the Break Pod and Working Actor Pro. Follow us on Twitter at Before the Break Pod, and check out Adam's stuff at adamdecarlo.com. Follow him at that Adam DeCarlo. And you can see my stuff at dtomdowning.com. Follow me at I'm Tom, by the way. Don't forget to hit subscribe, leave a rating, and write a review if you like what you heard. Check back next week for an all-new episode with an all-new guest, Adam.
See you next week.
Adios.